Welcome to the first episode of Coffee with Kelsey. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, we're going all the way back to the beginning. I often get asked how I got started in ballroom dancing, and most people assume that I started as a young child. I tend not to talk about the story of how I got started, and it may surprise some people, but my journey to becoming a professional ballroom dancer was very, very different than most of my colleagues. Today, I want to get into how it all started and a little bit of background first. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Some of you may know Pittsburgh for the sports teams, Steelers and Penguins. I'm not really a sports fan like most of my fellow Pittsburghers, but that's beside the point. Anyway, I grew up doing a lot of theater, dancing, singing. I went to a performing arts middle school and high school in Pittsburgh. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what those types of schools are, if you've seen the musical Fame, it's based on the famous LaGuardia High School in New York City. It's exactly like that. There is singing, dancing, people playing instruments at all times during the school day, and it was possibly the best experience for school that I could ever imagine for myself. And I'm sure a lot of my classmates feel the same way too. It was a great artistic environment, and I loved every second of it. So I was fully immersed in artistic endeavors at all times, and it completely consumed me. And honestly, it's all that I thought about and all that I cared about. At that point, singing and theater was my life, and everything that I did was fully around that. When I was about 15 years old, one of my friends told me about an opportunity for a dance scholarship at a local school, and of course, I wanted in. I didn't know what type of dance or really anything about it, and honestly, I didn't care. All I knew is that I could walk there after school, and I wanted to know everything I possibly could, and I had to do it. So sign me up. So I show up for this audition, and I didn't know it at the time, but it changed my life forever. This was the first time I was introduced to ballroom dancing. I had no idea what ballroom dancing was, and honestly, I had never even heard of it. So long story short, I went through the audition process and ended up receiving a full scholarship. Now, keep in mind, it was very, very much a social dancing school. I mean, we had showcases and local competitions, but it was very much a social school. But for me, it was something new and fun, and I was really enjoying it. And that's what really got me started. That scholarship would take me through the rest of high school, and I loved every minute of it. I completely fell in love with ballroom dancing. About 1.5, 2 years in, I started to wonder, what else is there? There's got to be more to this, and keep in mind, this is before the days of social media, YouTube, and even Dancing with the Stars. This was very early in the social media game, and no one that I knew was really even using it. And it was even something kind of weird and scary at the time. So I know, I'm dating myself a little bit, but that's how it was. And I was just enjoying myself and loving it. And I was just starting to search and question. And, I was just like, there's got to be more to this. What else can I do here? What else can I learn? And then I remember seeing on PBS a very, very popular dance competition here in the States that was being broadcast on PBS. And I remember the first time that I saw that. I saw what then would become the United States professional and 10-time professional world champion Yulia Zakharochenko. And let me tell you, I was completely mesmerized. I stuck a videotape into that VCR, yes, a VCR, and taped that competition and watched it over and over and over and over again. I still have that tape. Yes, it's still around. But I was so mesmerized, and that was 2005, 6. I was a senior in high school at the time. So I was so amazed and mesmerized by this. And that was the first time that I realized that people, they actually do this for sport. They do it professionally. There are different styles within ballroom dancing, and that's not what I'm learning. I want to do that. I was just watching in complete amazement. I wanted to know where I could learn that and what I could do. I started to search and sift through the internet, and I ended up at another school which I started to take lessons with and really started to dig into dancing. But, you have to understand, I was a total baby. I was very infantile and I knew absolutely nothing. And, the more that I started to dig into it, the more I fell in love, and it just became everything to me. I started competing, and, that was possibly the best thing that had ever happened to me. I loved what I was doing. I started to teach. I traveled with my then partner and competing on the national circuit. And, this was something that I didn't even know existed. I didn't know that it was even possible. And it was extremely exciting. So let's leave it there for today, and we'll pick up where we left off next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode of Coffee with Kelsey. Be sure to hit the follow button so you know when episode 2 is released, and I'll see you next time.